All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy race day and happy All-Star race weekend. It's got a little bit of a different venue. We're at North Wilkesboro, which is pretty cool that NASCAR was able to pull this off, get back to this track. It's the first time they've raced here, I think, since 1996, since Jeff Gordon won it. So I had to throw on some Jeff Gordon gear for the video here. But enjoyed the truck race yesterday, and it was interesting kind of watching the Cup heat races with the weather. And man, it was tough to pass. Which again, they were on that wet weather package. They're going to be on the slicks tonight, but man, I really hope we don't see a single file train like that, because it's going to be quite the boring race. I know this race is getting a lot of attention, a lot of hype. I know there's a ton of people in the area that are attending that event. So I'm just praying and hoping that hopefully we get a little bit of a better product as far as just the overall race goes. But as far as DFS goes, we do have a slate still, even though it is just a points, or it's not a points paying race. It's just for fun. So we'll get into that. But we're super close on getting to 700 subscribers. I think we're only 4 away. So if we could try to get above that benchmark milestone this weekend, that would be wonderful. So like I was saying, race preview, initial thoughts. This race is quote unquote, just for fun. It does pay $1 million to the winner. So there is still something on the line. It's a limited field. Not all the teams are going to make the race. So if you don't race your way in the open race, which will take place before the main race tonight, got to pack up and go home. So just for whatever reason, keep that in mind if you're building lineups and you're clicking on a driver who does not already have a starting position next to their name. There's a good chance that potentially that driver that you selected might not make the race. Now, Draftkings usually does a good job and notifies you before the slate locks. But again, just something to be aware of if you have plans and you aren't able to build lines after the open races take place. And like we've seen all year, this year and last year, this new car has really kind of just changed the dynamic of these short tracks, which is a shame because, the 1.5, the intermediate tracks seem to be the best racing product that we're getting with this car. And then for whatever reason, once we go to these short flat tracks, just it's impossible to pass. Everyone's talking about, the dirty air and shifting and, not having enough power and how plowing tight they get, when they lose the nose, when they get behind cars. So I'm hoping it's not just a single file line, but if it is kind of helpful, I guess, from a DFS perspective. So you'll see I don't have the entire sheet filled out. That's obviously because the open race will take place tonight. We'll figure out which 2 drivers will race their way into the main race. And then there's also going to be a fan vote. So 3 of these drivers who do not have an interest level or any notes to them will make the race. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but nonetheless, still wanted to get a video out there sooner rather than later. So with this race, you got 200 laps. There is going to be a mandatory kind of competition caution around lap 100. The teams have 4 sets of tires to use. They'll all start on sticker tires, and they have 3 sets of tires to use throughout the race. The only caveat is after the competition caution on lap 100, you're only able to put 1 lap of sticker tires on after that point. So it'll really be interesting to see kind of how the cautions fall and what teams can take advantage or get lucky with strategy at the end of the race, and hopefully put sticker tires on at the end that can help propel them to potentially a race win or at least a good finish. So looking at the slate, everyone is playable. Pricing is very soft. You can literally play anyone that you want. We really only have one 10K driver, and that's Kyle Larson. But the way that I want to approach this slate is really focusing on lap leaders. And it's really trying to nail who those lap leaders are going to be, and then trying to pair those lap leaders with the place differential plays and the finishing potential plays that we are projecting that are just going to finish, ideally inside the top 10, top 5, top 8, drivers that have that type of upside. And with the front row and looking at how cheap, pricing is, I mean, you can get some lap leaders in the 6K range and pair them with, a bunch of 9K, 8K, again, you can really play whoever you want. So looking at the top range here, you got Larson, Harvick, Logano, Bell, Truex, and Byron. Larson and Harvick are going to be more place differential plays. Um, it's hard to look at the data and feel confident or take a lot away from the heat races just because the heat races were ran in the wet weather package. So for me, the only thing I really want to take away from those heat races was just how difficult it was to pass. Everyone was struggling. It was more just a single file line, just kind of clocking laps off. And there'll be more cars on track for the main race, so that'll kind of help with comers and goers a little bit, cars getting in traffic. But I don't really want to pull the data and be like, oh, well, he was really fast in this heat race because they were on different tires, there's different track conditions. So I want to focus more on where they start, and then obviously, how they did in practice when they are actually on slick tires. So Larson and Harvick, arguably both kind of struggled a little bit in the heat races, but they were pretty good when they had slick tires on in practice. Give you a lot of place differential upside. Both of them have been very good on short flat tracks this year. There's a lot to like with Harvick and Larson. I would just say the caveat is if you're playing either one of or both of those drivers, just make sure you're pairing them with the driver who starts further to the front of the field, because Larson and Harvick, if they do lead laps, it's not going to be for a while, or if they get off strategy, to gain track position, because it's going to take them, even though they start, where they do, it's going to take them quite some time to get through the field. Then you got Logano, Bell, and Truex. They're going to be more medium interest for me. I'm sprinkling them into lineups. They're not targets for me by any means. I think Logano is interesting. He has the track position, but again, it's going to be hard to pass. And I think Suarez and Buescher have a much better chance of leading laps than Logano does. Bell kind of starts mid-pack. I think he can stay and maintain his track position. Truex is one of the best at managing his tires. So if we get a long, green flag run where the tires start to wear, I think Truex's car will kind of come in towards the end of that run. I'll be able to take advantage. Then you got Byron. I think Byron's way too cheap. Byron and Larson have arguably been the best two drivers at every single track that we've gone to this year. They've always been competing for race wins. It's hard not to like, throwing in a Larson and Byron combo, with Larson being a place differential upside and then Byron being finishing potential and a potential lap leader you can get in your line. And even if you are playing Byron and Larson, I'd still highly recommend playing a driver who even starts further to the front of the field, because you're still going to want to get those lap lead points. Getting to the 8K range, you got Hamlin, Chastain, Barry, who isn't locked in, Elliott, Allmendinger, and Gibbs, who aren't locked in. I will say, looking at the open drivers, I would say probably Gibbs, Almirola, Reese, and Barry are probably your most likely contenders, to get into the race. And then you're obviously going to have the fan vote that may or may not go to Noah Gragson. It's hard to tell. But I'm not really too interested in the open drivers, unless the only ones I would really be interested in are probably Ty Gibbs and Eric Almirola, again, for more place differential, upside reasons alone. But even if they make the race, I think a majority of my lines are still going to be built with the drivers who are already locked in. So really like Hamlin. Hamlin had really fast practice times. Again, is really good at managing his tires. He gives you some place differential upside without having to go through the entire, field, which is encouraging to see. The only potential downfall of Hamlin is just, how his team will do on pit road. Hopefully his team does not lose him positions on pit road, because if you lose positions on pit road, it's going to be that much harder to pass cars on the track. Chastain looks like a good place differential upside, a lot cheaper than Larson and Harvick. He did struggle in the heat races, which might keep people off of him to a certain extent. But again, those heat races were ran in different weather conditions. So should have the best car, arguably, of those starting deep in the field. So I still like Chastain quite a bit. With how soft pricing is, I'd rather just pay up and get Larson or Harvick is kind of my top tier, place differential place. I think can also get inside, the top 10, the top 5, potentially even lead laps if somehow the race shakes out their way. Elliott, for whatever reason, I am not really getting to a ton when I'm building lineups. But again, you could kind of make an argument for anyone, in the slate with how soft pricing is, but he kind of starts mid-pack, and my fear is he just kind of gets stuck there, especially looking at his practice times. Kyle Busch is someone I'm also not getting to. He was not very happy after his heat races, and also wasn't very happy after just practice in general. He's just, that team just looks to be off. The car is not doing anything that really Kyle wants it to do. Really like Reddick. I'd much rather pay down for Reddick than paying up for Chastain. But again, pricing is so soft it really isn't going to impact you or make that much of a difference. So Reddick really struggled in the heat races, but he was one of the best cars in practice. So if anyone is able to work their way through the field, I think Tyler Reddick can do that. I like him for GPPs and cash games. Blaney's going to be another driver I like as well. He had the fastest car over the long run. So if we are able to get a long green flag run, especially maybe in like stage 3 or something, Blaney looks like someone who has the track position and also the car that's going to be able to stay up front and then be able to pass cars to get further to the front of the field. So I really like Blaney for tournaments. I think a lot of people are just going to jam in Reddick there, seeing the place differential upside. But Blaney's a fine option too, and I really like playing those plays together. Keselowski's not really someone I'm getting to either. I'd much rather target his teammate Buescher, who has the track position and also was faster in practice. Bubba Wallace and Briscoe are kind of more tournament plays. Wallace, like Reddick, had a car that was faster on the long run, which is encouraging. So maybe you could argue that, he'll have the ability to actually, pass cars and get around them, which is good to see. Just obviously doesn't give you as much place differential upside as Reddick, but he's also a lot cheaper. Briscoe's going to be someone I don't think people are going to play. If you're, building 20 lines or, you're doing 150 mini max, I would definitely get some exposure to Briscoe. You never know. He could get you some fast laps with his track position there. Might even potentially get out, front to the lead. And once you get to the lead with these cars, it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. And then it's crazy. You got Suarez and Buescher on the front row and, the 6K drivers. So Suarez dominated his heat race pretty much. The only potential concern with Suarez was he was not very fast on slick tires that we'll have for the race tonight. So the good thing for Suarez is he controls the restart. He starts first. He gets the preferred lane easily, should get the early lead. And from there, it's pretty much just maintaining and not messing up and not giving Buescher, an opportunity to pass you. So I think Suarez is going to lead a ton of laps. Has the best position to do that. And if anyone could potentially, contend with Suarez as far as that early lap leader goes, it's Buescher. And I really like Buescher a lot. I'm probably going to be over the field on Buescher. Was really good in his heat race. He was able to kind of maintain the clean air. But he was also really fast in practice too. And he hit a top 5 car across all the different practice metrics, which is really encouraging to see. And I saw Buescher on Twitter talking about how much he loves his team, loves his car, is really excited for this weekend. So that's all stuff that I like. And that's the only thing I don't like about Suarez is just how slow that team was in practice. But again, clean air is king. And I'd much rather kind of focus on where they start versus, well, how do they do in practice? So I have Suarez and Buescher projected very well today. I like playing both of them. I like playing, just one of them. I really like getting to, these drivers and then pairing them with a Larson, a Harvick, a Hamlin, a Byron, Reddick, Blaney. Like those are the types of builds that I'm building. And then from there, not really getting to Dillon, Stenhouse, Jones or Cindric. Like most of these drivers start deep. They're kind of more place differential plays. I just don't think Stenhouse is really going to be able to pass that many people. Eric Jones has looked just completely awesome paint scheme, but has looked completely slow all weekend. Same with Cindric. And we know we're going to get 3 other drivers in this field that are going to start behind these plays. Kind of just depends on who it is. But again, if it's Gibbs, I'm going to have some ownership there. Almirola, maybe to an extent. Barry, maybe to an extent. I would say Gibbs is my favorite of the 3 that potentially will make it. And I'll update this sheet. I'll post this sheet on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. So once once we know who those remaining drivers are, I'll add them to the sheet. But it's really not going to change things too much for me. It's a ton of Suarez, a ton of Busher, and then pairing them with just some plays that I think can give you place differential upside, or who I think will be there at the end to contend for the race win. So that's Larson, that's Harvick. Really like Byron, love Hamlin, like Reddick as a place differential upside. I think Blaney's a good tournament play. So those are the types of builds that I'm building. I'm just gonna kind of mix and match with those plays. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Really appreciate all the support we've been getting. We hit 1,100 followers on Twitter, which was pretty cool to see last weekend. So thank you guys for doing that. But yeah, enjoy your Sunday, enjoy the All Star race weekend, and like I said, here's hoping we get just a fun slate that has some passing and not just a single file line. So yeah, best of luck and catch you guys next weekend.